Okay. I would like to welcome you to our first online session of the English Language Mentor Network team. I am Püski and I'm from Alteredu nonprofit Ltd. This company is the coordinator of the project. So this theory is coming from Mr. Kolb, who is an educational theorist and a social psychologist. He has studied arts, Bachelor of Arts, and then he made his PhD. You can see it on the slides. The way we will think about what he's believing of is there are two steps. One of them is the experiential learning theory, and the other one is the learning cycle. These two are linked together. And the main thing, what he was thinking and announcing, that the learning is a process whereby knowledge is created through transformation of experience. In his theory, it's very important that the child must be an active part of the lecture and not only a passive student of the process. Kolb proposed that experience is a critical process in development of knowledge construction, as learning occurs through discovery and active participation. He believed that the learning process is a natural process, and often we don't even recognize that we are learning. It just happens. But later on, when we are sure that something, a new information or a new knowledge was acquired properly, means that it became real knowledge as part of the learning process, is that we can know that only when this knowledge can be applied again and again, and it is a sort of an added value for the student who has been part of the learning process. Okay, so there are 4 stages of the learning period. The concrete, the numbers doesn't mean that it has happened in this way. Kolb says that you can enter the learning phase at any stage. We have here number 1, which is a concrete experience. This is linked to feelings, which means that when we have a concrete experience, we always involved in it by our feelings. Sorry, I'm just... Okay. So Kolb says that the learning process begins with concrete experience. It can be either a new experience, a completely new one, or a reimagined experience that already happened, or the student already owns it. Maybe he had some previous lectures or some previous experience, and then he gathered that information. In a concrete experience, the learner gets engaged through an activity or a task. He mentioned many times that no passive learning is a learning. It always has to be active by the student's part. So he has to be really involved through a task or through an activity, and not only just being there. In a concrete experience, the learner is engaged through an activity. It's important that it's not enough that the learner reads about or hears about or watch about the new information, but he has to acquire the knowledge and the information through a very active process. The second step of the learning cycle is reflective observation, which means that after engaging in the concrete experience, the learner makes one step back in order to reflect to the whole process, to the whole task. This allows the learner to ask questions and discuss the experience with the partners, with the classmates, or with the teachers. And it helps them or the communication helps the students to identify the difference between his or her own understanding and the experience itself, or how it could have happened if differences had been, if circumstances had been different. So this is the reflective observation part of the learning stage. The next one is the abstract conceptualization, which is that part of the learning cycle where the student wants to know whether it had any sense, whether the event had any sense. The learner attempts to draw conclusions by reflecting their prior knowledge, using ideas with which he or she was familiar before, and discussing possible theories with peers. In this stage, the learner moves from reflective observation to abstract conceptualization when they begin classifying concepts, forming conclusions on the events that occurred. So this is the part when what I did, and then I was just stepping backwards to say like what has happened, then we start to make the concepts of what has happened during the learning phase. In this part, they might write papers, creating presentations about the new ideas, and creating models, and so on. The next stage of the learning circle is the active experimentation. This part means that all the new knowledge that was acquired during the learning circle will be tested, will be applied again, will be put into practice. If we skip this fourth step, then actually the whole learning cycle is, he would say, not useful, because we will forget about the new information or what we heard or what we experienced during the learning process. So the doing phase means that we apply again and again, we practice and we do, we apply, we put into new process all the new informations or knowledges that we acquired during this learning circle, during this learning phase. And what Kolb says, that it doesn't end at this stage, at number 4, because when we do something, we are already starting the first step, when there is a concrete experience, when we are active in doing something. And then comes the feeling, and through being active and having the concrete experience leads us again to reflective observation. We can do one step backwards, check out what we did or what we have done. We can do again the thinking part, like whether it was useful or did it have any sense. We can draw again conclusions. We can classify new concepts based on the previous ones we had. And these new concepts we can put again into actions. And then we already did the second learning circle. And this way, it's like sort of lifelong learning theory. This way, the learning process is always ongoing, but always on a deeper understanding level, and improving the skills and improving the knowledges. Next one. It's still about the learning cycle. So as I said, Kolb says that this cycle, the learning cycle, can be entered at any stage. And it's my own opinion that you probably have heard about the different types, personality types, the sanguinics, the melancholics, the phlegmatics, and the cholerics. And I think that it also depends on where the students enter this process about his or her personality. There is one example, and it's from Collabor. If you will be coming to the main workshop, you will see that place. I was not there, but I was told the story. In the Collabor, it's an experimental place where about 6,000 students were taking part in different lectures. And this lecture was in the kitchen, and the teacher was teaching them through cooking different biological and digestional knowledges. And I don't know how many months later, but the teacher received information that one of the students who was there decided to become a cook just because of the experience he had in the kitchen. And of course, the teacher was really curious that who was that, which student was that? And when she was told that that was the guy, she was completely like, what, that guy? He was not even doing anything. He was just laying next to the wall and pressing his mobile, his handy. And due to this concept, we just talked about, yes, this guy was doing the reflective observation, only watching the process. He was present, he was not being active in the lecture, but he was there, and all the experiences, all the influences he had there put him into the choice to become a cook. So this is just a good example that we can enter the process at any stage. And when we do the learning cycle, we will go through all of the stage of the learning cycle. This is a recurring cycle, yes, with increasing depth of understanding and skills. And why Kolb said that experience is necessary for the learning, because he said that passive learning is not learning, because there won't be any added value in the student inside. He says that the learning process is taking the information from outside, processing it through the inner values and inner understandings, and then having an outcome. And if this process that happens inside doesn't happen, then it's not a learning process. It's only an information that was given, but that was not receiving. And as you see, there is the next 2 points, that in a learning process, we are always a receiver and a creator. We cannot be only one of them. We receive the process or the new information of the new knowledge either through concrete experience or through abstract conceptualization. And we create the informations through reflective observation and active experimentation. We will come to the next slide and then might help us to have a better understanding of this. And this led us to the learning styles, because of course, upon the learning circles, there are learning styles as well. And the type of the styles depends on 2 things: how the information is perceived or understood. It can be either concrete or abstract. Concrete means that we have feelings, like we are involved. The abstract is the thinking process. And the other thing that defines the style, the learning style, is the type of how the information is processed. It also can be active, which means doing, or it can be passive, which is watching. And based on how the information is understood and how it is processed, there are 4 types of learning styles. And we will, I could go to the next one, sorry. And there we have a better. understanding of this. Why is it important to know about the different learning styles? Because we can understand our students more. And if we see their passivity, then according to their learning styles, we can provide them a better support in their learning process. I go to the next slide, and don't worry if you don't get this. For me, it was a long period till I really was able to process this theory for myself. But diverging means that the person who is in the learning process is working through feeling and watching. It means that they prefer concrete experiences and not that active processing, but more watching, reflective observation. These type of students like working collaboratively in groups, and they really like when we brainstorm about ideas and we work together. If you would like to use techniques to provide them a better support, then they really like hands-on activities and opportunities where they can explore. They like those classical lectures when the teacher highlights how to use systems and what are the strengths and the weaknesses of the new theories or the new knowledges, what they are learning. The next part, or the next type of learning style is the assimilating style. These students who are having this style, they emphasize reasoning. These individuals who demonstrate this learning style, they are able to review the facts and assess the experience as a whole. They are the ones who think and watch. They tend to enjoy designing experiments, and they like working on projects from the beginning until the end. And when you are a teacher and you need some techniques how to influence these students, then they like those prepared exercises where they can work without any support by the instructor, by the teacher. They like to be independent. They like classic teacher class lectures when there is some extra audio or video presentations. Private explorations or demonstrations, they prefer that follows tutorial with answers provided. These students like designing experiments. Oh, that's already mentioned, that working on projects from start to completion. Okay. The next style is the converging style, which means abstract conceptualization and active experimentation. These students are the ones who think and do. These learning style highlights problem solving as an approach to learning. Those students who prefer this learning style, they are able to make decisions by themselves, and they apply their ideas to new experiences easily. They tend to avoid people and perceptions, choosing instead to find technical solutions. If you are a teacher, then you can support their learning processes by workbooks or worksheets that provide problem sets for them. They like tasks that are computer-based, and problem-based teaching methods are really for them, for these teachers. And the next style is the accommodating style. In this style, concrete experience and active experimentation is typical for the students. They are the ones who feel and do. They really use intuition. For them, it's very important that let's start doing it, and through the process, they change according how they feel. Usually, these people are very good people skills. They have good people skills, and they are very flexible. They have that way of thinking that let's try, and if it doesn't work, then the solution will teach us, or we can find it by ourselves. These students who are accommodators, they are able to alter their path based on the learning path based on the circumstances, and they are very intuitive and adaptable. If you are a teacher and you want to support their learning methods, then you use activities that allow them to be actively engaged. They really like checking the edge, what if or why not. So they are those of let's try, why not? And they like tasks that promote independent discovery. Sorry. And now I go back again to you. And maybe I put it back to that one where we see all of them. And I would like to ask you, do you, like, through the process of the learning styles, did you remember any of your students who is this kind or that kind of a student according to the learning styles?